Setting goals, even simple ones, such as getting from here to there, might seem like a little more work than it should be. Now, I could go over the back of the couch, I could move the couch and go around, but one of the best ways is just to plan the goal and do the work every day, every moment to get yourself there. And you would be amazed. Sometimes the impossible happens. A number of years ago, I wanted to expand my business. I wanted to grow and use some of the new talents and skills that I had developed. And it was a good time to do it because the Detroit economy was crashing and I wasn't sure where photography was going at the time, although I did still have a studio and I had clients, but I wanted to expand. I knew that having multiple sources of income was a good idea. So I started a podcast and I called it newmediaphotographer.com. And before I pressed that button, I set 3 goals. 3 impossible goals, to be quite honest, because I had no idea how these things were going to happen. First, I wanted to become a consultant, a digital marketing consultant. I've been using search engine optimization and other social media development to grow my business, my photography business. And I wanted to take that to the public. I wanted to help other businesses. And the next goal was to get a book deal. I wanted to write a book, and specifically for photographers on social media. It was the hot thing at the time. And I also wanted to speak. I wanted to travel the country, if not the world, and specifically because I had heard a number of people who had gone to Australia to speak kind of piqued my interest. So I decided that number 3 would be to speak in Australia. Over time, my brand and skills started to grow, and one of my photography clients was a digital marketing firm, a one-man shop. And I thought I would approach him and ask him, hey, do you think you need a social media consultant? I think you need one. And he thought about it and he said yes. And so over a year's time, I started to develop my own position within that company. And within a year, I had a full-time income just from that source alone. Next was the book deal. I had met a young photographer by the name of Lindsay Adler in New York. She was somebody who had followed me and connected with me on Twitter. And she knew that I was coming to speak in New York and wanted to meet with me and a few other people. And as soon as I met her, wow, she had a lot of energy, and I interviewed her for my podcast, and we kept in touch. And about a month later, she asked me if she could interview me for her book. Now, it turns out the book she was writing was the same book I was writing, but the thing is, she had a publisher. And so I said, yes, no problem. I'd be happy to be a part, even if it's just a small part of one of the chapters. Soon after, about the beginning of the new year, she sent me a direct message via Twitter. And asked me, hey, what are you doing? And I said, well, not much at this moment. And she said, hey, right now we are on deadline. Actually, we've passed deadline on my book, and we need help. Would you help us with the book that needs to be done in 8 weeks? And I said yes. And so we worked together over 8 weeks to finish the Link Photographer's Guide to Online Marketing and Social Media, which was released the following May. So that was number 2. How did I get there? I didn't know. I just went through the motions, took the steps necessary to point me in the right direction. So number 3, speaking in Australia. How the heck is that gonna happen? Well, I had already started speaking around the country, so I was very happy about those opportunities. And the book was out, and one day, one evening, a person followed me on Twitter from Australia. It happened to be a photographer, so he piqued my curiosity, and I looked in, and it turns out that this person was part of a committee to find people to speak to help photographers in Australia. So what did I do? I reached out and said, hey, if there's anything I can do for the people of Australia, you just let me know. And the reply was within 5 minutes, hey, would you come to Australia? Let me think about that. Let me think about that. Hey, let me think about that. Now, before I set and accomplished those 3 goals, I had certainly achieved goals previous, and I've certainly achieved many goals since in my personal and business life. Over many years, I've studied goals and goal achieving, and I want to share some of the key things that will help you become more successful as a goal achiever. Now, I like to work in threes. I like to have 3 life goals and 3 annual goals, monthly goals, weekly, or even daily goals. And really, daily goals are just activities that you want to complete during the day, but you can still call them goals. I like to focus on 3 at a time because it doesn't get distracting. If you have too many goals, you might lose sight of where you want to go. So have 3 goals for the year, and then you can have monthly goals that support the annual goals and weekly goals that support the monthly goals, and so on. So work in threes, or maybe for you it's 1 at a time or 2 at a time, but I really wouldn't go more than 3. The daily and weekly goals are very important because they give you a sense of accomplishment along the way. An annual goal seems a long way off. Life goals can take 5 or 10 years to reach. So you want to have success along the way to keep the motivation. I highly recommend that you get a journal or a sketchbook for your goals. I like to write out my goals each day and each month and then keep myself accountable. And I like to share what worked and what did not work. A goal achieving journal like this can be really helpful, especially when you need to look back. It helps you see patterns in your life. Sometimes to achieve goals, we need to break patterns, usually bad patterns. We find ourselves doing the same thing over and over again, and that does not work. We sometimes need to break the mold. We need to do things a little bit differently. In setting goals and seeing how we are achieving them and how we're not achieving them can certainly get you moving forward in the growth of your business and also make you a better person as a whole. The types of goals you set are totally up to you. Now, some people have a big, long list of, say, 100 life goals. That's fine. I just recommend you work on 3 at a time. Now, some people have business goals and personal goals, and maybe you want to keep them separate. But some people are perfectly fine mixing them together. So you have maybe 1 business goal that you're focused on and 2 personal goals. However, the types of goals that you can have are endless. You can have spiritual goals, health goals, maybe vacation goals, different types of business goals such as financial goals, or maybe there's some awards you want to win. There are many different types of goals that you can have. And what you need to do is backwards engineer how you can get to that goal. When you backwards engineer it, you can then create monthly goals and weekly goals and even daily goals that will help support you to get there. So what's your biggest goal? Put it in the comments below. One thing that I have learned through the years is that when I set a goal, I don't always achieve it in the time frame that I've set out. Now, that does not make you a failure. You're going to achieve goals, and sometimes you're going to change goals or let goals go away. For example, I might have a goal for this year. However, I may not achieve it until the following year. Why is that? Because I've spent the year setting myself up for success. So you may set some goals for this month, and you may do all the right things, but it may not come through until a month or 2 down the road. Goal achieving is not about winning or losing or being a winner or a failure. Setting goals is a guidance system. Use it that way. Now, sometimes you want to replace your goals. Maybe a goal just isn't important to you anymore. Maybe you set a goal many years ago and you think you have to keep trying to achieve it, yet you don't have any interest or it's not practical anymore. As we get older, our goals change, and it's okay to let some of those old goals go, not as a failure, but the fact it just isn't important to you anymore. And you're setting up new goals to achieve to create the best life for you. It's important to remember your goals are your goals. Now, in the situation of my first 3 goals, I selected Australia as one of my goals because of what other people were doing. Now, that worked out for me, and maybe other people can be an inspiration. However, other people's goals should not be your goals. It has to be something that you really want in your heart because it's going to be hard. Goal setting and achieving is not easy because if you do it right, you're going after different goals that really seem impossible right now. You need to do the work to get to those goals, and you don't always know how you're going to do it, and sometimes it's going to seem really hard. And if you don't have the heart to actually achieve that goal, you will most certainly quit. It's important to have goals beyond your goals. What do I mean by that? Well, think of an Olympic athlete striving for gold. Every 4 years there's an opportunity and they are training for that moment. And let's say they meet it, they get it, they win gold. And then what? A lot of times athletes are people who have focused on one goal their entire life. Their whole life falls apart afterwards because they don't have a goal after their goal. So it is helpful to have a goal that will replace accomplished goals, so you keep going. You don't find yourself at the peak of the mountain wondering, what next? It's amazing that depression can come into play after you've achieved goals. And by having goals after your goals, that will help prevent that because you have something else to strive for. Based on my observation, there are 3 very important things required for goal achieving. The first one is acknowledging the goal or writing it down. The second one is taking action, and that's where those mini goals happen throughout the year. But you want to take action. Action is the only way you're going to get to your goal. And the third one is persistence. When you persist, you have a better chance of achieving that goal. You won't achieve them all, but persistence will get you further along than many. Persistence is the only way you're going to get there, because when you stop, that ends and that goal will not be achieved. Take action and be persistent, but it starts with writing it down. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.